Namaskar, Jai Shri Krishna. Rejuvenating text 31 and text 32 of chapter 11, Lord Krishna's entrance into Dvaraka of first canto, creation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 31. Patnyah patim proshya gruhanupagatam vilokya samjatmano mahotsavah utta sthurarat sahasas nashayat sakam vratair vridit Lochananah. The queens of Lord Shri Krishna rejoiced within their minds to see their husband home after a long period abroad. The queens got up at once from their seats and meditations. As was socially customary, they covered their faces shyly and looked about coyly. As mentioned above, the Lord entered his home palaces occupied by 16,108 queens. This means that the Lord at once expanded himself in as many plenary expansions as there were queens and palaces and entered into each and every one of them simultaneously and separately. Here is another manifestation of the feature of his internal potency. He can expand himself in as many forms of spiritual identity as he desires, even though he is one without a second. It is confirmed by the Shruti mantra that the Absolute is one alone, and yet he becomes many as soon as he so desires. These manifold expansions of the Supreme Lord are manifested as plenary and separated portions. The separated portions are representations of his energy and the plenary portions are manifestations of his personality. The personality of Godhead thus manifested himself in 16,108 plenary expansions and simultaneously entered into each and every one of the palaces of the queens. This is called Vaibhava or the transcendental potency of the Lord, and because he can do so, he is also known as Yogeshwara. Ordinarily, a yogi or mystic living being is able to expand himself at utmost to tenfold expansions of his body, but the Lord can do so to the extent of as many thousands or infinitely as he likes. Unbelievers become astonished to learn that Lord Krishna married more than 16,000 queens because they think of Lord Krishna as one of them and measure the potency of the Lord by their own limited potency. One should know therefore that the Lord is never on the level of the human beings but who are expansions of his marginal potency, and one should never equalize the potent and the potency, although there is very little difference of quality between the potent and the potency. The queens were also expansions of his internal potency, and thus the potent and potencies are perpetually exchanging transcendental pleasures known as pastimes of the Lord. One should not therefore become astonished to learn that Lord Krishna married so many wives. On the contrary, one should affirm that even if the Lord marries 16,000 million wives, he is not completely manifesting his unlimited and inexhaustible potency. He married only 16,000 wives and entered in each and every one of the different palaces just to impress in the history, in the human form of life on the surface of the earth, that the Lord is never equal to or less than any human being, however powerful he may be. No one therefore is either equal to or greater than the Lord. The Lord is always great in all respects. God is great is eternal truth. Therefore, as soon as the queen saw from a distance their husband who was away from home for long periods due to the battle of Kurukshetra, they all arose from the slumber of meditation and prepared to receive their most beloved. According to Yajnavalka's religious injunctions, a woman whose husband is away from home should not take part in any social functions, should not decorate her body, should not laugh, and should not go to any relative's place in any circumstance. This is the vow of the ladies whose husbands are away from home. At the same time, it is also enjoined that a wife should not present herself before the husband in an unclean state. She must decorate herself with ornaments and good dress and should always be present before the husband in a happy and joyous mood. The queens of Lord Krishna were all in meditation, thinking of the Lord's absence and were always meditating upon him. The Lord's devotees cannot live for a moment without meditating on the Lord. And what to speak of the queens, who were all goddesses of fortune incarnated as queens in the pastimes of the Lord at Dvaraka. They can never be separated from the Lord, either by presence or by trance. The gopis at Vrindavan could not forget the Lord when the Lord was away in the forest cow herding. When the Lord boy Krishna was absent from the village, the gopis at home used to worry about him traversing the rough ground with his soft lotus feet. By thinking thus, they were sometimes overwhelmed in trance and mortified in the heart. Such is the condition of the pure associates of the Lord. They are always in trance, and so the queens also were in trance during the absence of the Lord. Presently, having seen the Lord from a distance, they at once gave up all their engagements, including the vows of women as described above. According to Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there was a regular psychological reaction on the occasion. First of all, rising from their seats, although they wanted to see their husband, they were deterred because of feminine shyness. But due to strong ecstasy, they overcame the stage of weakness and became caught up with the idea of embracing the Lord. And this thought factually made them unconscious of their surrounding environment. This prime state of ecstasy annihilated all other formalities and social conventions, and thus they escaped all stumbling blocks on the path of meeting the Lord. And that is the perfect stage of meeting the Lord of the soul, Shri Krishna. Text 32. Tamatma jaira drushti bhiranta ratmana duranta bhavaha parire bhire patim niruddham pyasra vadambu netrayora vilaj jatinam bhruguvarya vaiklavat. The insuperable ecstasy, which was so strong, the queens who were shy first embraced the Lord in the innermost recesses of their hearts. Then they embraced him visually, and then they sent their sons to embrace him, which is equal to personal embracing. But, O chief amongst the Bhrugus, though they tried to restrain their feelings, they inadvertently shed tears. Although due to feminine shyness, there were many hindrances to embracing the dear husband Lord Shri Krishna, the queens performed that act by seeing him, by putting him in the cores of their hearts, and by sending their sons to embrace him. Still, the act remained unfinished, and the tears rolled down their cheeks despite all endeavors to check them. One indirectly embraces the husband by sending the son to embrace him because the son is developed as part of the mother's body. The embrace of the son is not exactly the embrace of husband and wife from the sexual point of view, but embrace is the satisfaction from the affectionate point of view. The embrace of the eyes is very effective in the conjugal relation, and thus according to Srila Jiva Goswami, there is nothing wrong in such an exchange of feeling between husband and wife. Hare Krishna.